Welcome back, guys. We're 13 weeks into the 20-week SOS live challenge. So we're past the halfway mark into the back stretch. And if this is your first time joining us live, let me tell you quickly why we are here. I spent over 40 years in the federal government in logistics and contracting, with the last 21 of those years as a contracting officer on the other side of the table, evaluating proposals, managing 143 billion in federal contracts, advised over 11,000 contractors, and watching businesses win big or fall apart before they ever got started. Now, and the pattern that kept showing up had nothing to do with talent. It was structure, systems, revenue, strategy, and readiness. The most capable business owners were the ones quietly struggling, not because they couldn't do the work, but because their business wasn't built to hold the growth they were chasing. So I'm doing something about it. We started this on April 8th, going live at 2 p.m. every single Wednesday for 20 weeks straight. That's one topic, one teaching moment, and one shift per week. And today is what week 13. But before we get into today's topic, I want to do what we've been doing for the past several weeks, and that's get grounded in what is moving beneath us. Because this week is list is a master class in the exact problem we're talking about today is motion without alignment. And a lot of things are moving, and not all of them are moving your business toward a result. So the first thing that we're going to talk about again is the FAR 52 222-90 deadline. Guys, now is 23 days out. July 24th is the target date for contracting officers to bilaterally modify existing contracts to include the Executive Order 14398 deviation clause. Now, that clause has already been inserted into solicitations across the government under the FAR Council's April 17 memorandum, and according to compliance guidance published in this week FAR 52 222-90, it actually must appear in all federal contracts, all new federal contracts and contract-like instruments over the micro purchase threshold of $15,000 for work performed in the United States. So that just came out this week. Contracting officers have discretion to actually skip modifications on contracts that are expiring before the 31st of December. So if you did not get a notice about the modification, look to see when your contract is expiring. If it's the end of this calendar year, your contract is going to be done anyway. They potentially will not be doing a modification. What you want to do as a courtesy is engage your contracting office and just verify that and just get something in writing that said, hey, you did not pursue this modification at this time because my contract was being closing out or expiring. So get something in writing. So again, it's all about due diligence. You're just covering your behind at this point in time. But if a contractor refuses the modification, the contracting officer is instructed to consider whether the contract no longer meets the agency's needs, and they can terminate that contract for convenience. So if you hold an existing federal contract, the modification is going to land on your desk between now and July the 24th. But again, don't sign anything without reading it. And if you haven't engaged your counsel before now, please make sure that you confer with a counsel so that you truly understand exactly what that modification means to you, your organization going forward. The second thing on the list is the Maryland federal lawsuit. So now a coalition of 19 states plus the District of Columbia has filed suit in the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland, seeking to actually block Executive Order 14398. Now, the suit raises the possibility of court intervention before the July 24th modification deadline. But guys, please be mindful that absent a judicial order, the FAR Council's implementation timeline stays in force. Do not plan your business on the assumption that the court will stop this. Plan for compliance and let the litigation update the plan if and when it does. The third thing, and we talked about this again last week as well, is that GSA has extended the anti-DEI clause to federal leases and concessions. Actually, this is something new. We talked about the DEI clause, but the extension to the federal leases and concessions, this is a new something that's recently happened. So they just published a paperwork reduction act notice this week, confirming that 52-222-90 also applies to federal real property leases and concession contracts. And comments on that notice are due on or about August the 24th, 2026. So if your business holds a GSA lease or a concession, I'm talking museum concessions, park concessions, cafeteria contracts, federal building leases, that clause is coming to you too. The fourth thing is the OMB Uniform Guidance Rewrite. OMB has proposed sweeping changes to 2 CFR Part 200, the Federal Financial Assistance Rules that govern grants, cooperative agreements, and pass-through funding from federal agencies to state and local governments. Comments for that are due on July 13th. That is 12 days from today. So that's docket number OMB-2026-0034 on regulations.gov. So if your firm supports state or local programs that rely on federal funds, and many small businesses in this room do, even if you consider yourself a contracts shop, this rewrite touches your work. So read the parts that affect your revenue and file a comment. Fifth, the revolutionary for our overhaul phase 2 comment deadline. The first 4 proposed rules were published in the Federal Register on June 23rd, covering 13 FAR parts and more than 1,000 pages. Comments are due on or about July the 23rd, which is 22 days from today. Now, this is the most significant FAR rewrite in a generation. SBA's Office of Advocacy flagged it this week. Pull the proposed rules, read the parts that touch your work. Small businesses set aside subcontracting, source selection, contract types, and file a comment. Let your voice be heard, please. The sixth thing is SBA's FI's practice scorecard on June 25th. So small businesses received a share of federal prime contract dollars in FY25, and the scorecard grades every federal agency on how well they hit their small business, woman-owned small business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, HUB zone, and 8A goals. So read your target agency's grade. If they miss their goal, that is a market signal about where set-aside dollars will be pushed in FY26 and 27, or the remainder of this fiscal year. Now, if they exceeded their goal, that tells you something too. So what I want you to do is drop a number in the chat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, for which of those item lands closest to your business right now. And if more of them, one applies, drop them all in the chat, because for the most part, more than one may apply to several of you. So now think about the list I just went through. Every one of those items is real. Every one of them has a deadline. Every one of them requires an owner, a decision, and a filed action. And here's the question I want you to hold today. If you spent the next 3 weeks reading every one of those rules and filing every one of those comments, would your pipeline be bigger? Would your win rate be any higher? Would your CPAR story be stronger? And for most of you in this room, the honest answer is no. And that is the week 13 diagnostic. You feel like you are making progress, but there are no results. And so the real problem becomes understanding that progress is not the same as results. Progress feels like motions. We sent some emails, we started some drafts, had some teaming calls, regulatory briefs were read, we filed some comments, we submitted some bids. That's motion. Results are different. Results are contracts awarded, options exercised, past performance ratings recorded in CPARs. You got some recompete wins. Your revenue growth, bench depth, your balance sheet was strengthened. You can have a business full of progress and empty of results. In fact, most of the businesses I coach through this transition come in exactly there, working hard, working long hours, delivering the work, reading the rules, attending the industry days, chasing the bids, and the numbers don't move because the activity is not aligned to the thing that actually produces the results. So in federal contracting, the thing that produces the result is disciplined execution against three specific fronts. Front one, your bid, no bid decision. Every hour you spend on the bid you should not have submitted is an hour you did not spend on the bid you should have. The scoreboard for a small firm is not how many bids you submitted. It is your win rate. And your win rate is a function of one decision, which bids you said yes to. Front two, your section L and section M alignment. Section L tells the offeror what to submit. Section M is going to tell you the source selection, tells the source selection authority as well as you how it will be evaluated. So if your proposal is written to section M without it being anchored in section M, I think I got that confused. So if you're writing to section L without anchoring in section M, you're actually producing a compliant document that won't win. And compliance is the price of admission. It is not the discriminator. So again, if you're just writing to section L without your work and your proposals and your whatever you're going to do being anchored in what's in section M, you're just producing a compliant document, but it's not going to win. So the compliance, again, that's the price of admission. It's going to get you there. It's going to get, we're going to see us. We do that little pre-screen. We need to make sure you did everything we told you. Follow the instructions. You follow the instruction. Okay, I'm going to move you on. It got you admitted, but it is not the discriminator. It will not get the win for that contract or for that proposal or that offer. So be mindful of that. The third front is your performance to CPARS pipeline. You are not just delivering the statement of work or the PWS or the SAL or SU statement of objective. You are building the story that will show up in your CPARS rating and travel with you into every future evaluation. So if your delivery is not being deliberately shaped to produce a strong CPARS narrative, you are giving away your best marketing asset for the next contract. And so if those three fronts are not tight, you can work 70 hours a week and your business will still stall. So let me show you what alignment actually looks like on the ground and how to tell the difference between an hour that produced a result and an hour that just felt busy. First thing, motion is easier than alignment. And that is why we default to motion. So motion, you can count emails because motion is easier to measure, right? We can draft, count how many drafts we did. We know how many meetings we attended. We know how many bids we submitted. We know how many comments we filed. Again, that's easy to do because I can count it off. But alignment is harder because alignment requires you to know what the target is and then reject the work that does not move you toward it. So every hour I spend teaching bid, no bid discipline, at least one owner in that room is going to tell me they submitted a bid last month. They knew they weren't going to win because it seemed like good practice. That is motion, not alignment. Alignment says, I am not submitting bids I cannot win. I am submitting bids I have a real path to win. And I am putting my full capture effort into those. Everything else is a distraction from the result. So quit submitting bids for the sake of submitting bids because you claim it's practice. You ain't winning nothing. So stop doing that, y'all. The second thing, section M is the scorecard. We have got to write to the scorecard. Every source selection uses evaluation criteria in section M, whether it's technical approach, management approach, past performance, price. Sometimes, they got small business subcontracting. Sometimes there's something in there about cybersecurity. Sometimes there's something unique to that actual program. If you cannot recite the evaluation factors of the last proposal you submitted and their relative weighting, you did not write to the scorecard. You wrote to section L and you left the win on the table. Because every proposal in this room should have a compliance matrix that maps every section L requirement to every section M evaluation factor and every draft response. If you do not have that matrix, you are writing in the dark. Again, let me say that again, and I surely need y'all to hear me. Every proposal in the room should have a compliance matrix that maps every section L requirement to every section M evaluation factor and every draft response. If you do not have that matrix, you are writing in the dark. And the last thing we're going to talk about is CPARs as a compounded asset. So y'all need to start treating it like one. Your CPARs rating from every completed and every ongoing contract is going to be pulled into every future evaluation you enter. This is the mechanism of past performance. A strong CPAR story compounds. It opens doors. It's going to survive a price disadvantage. It converts recompetes. A weak or missing CPAR story compounds the other way. And if you are not managing your delivery with the CPAR's narrative in mind, if you are not documenting quality, schedule, cost, small business use, and management responsiveness in real time, you are letting compounding asset drift. And every project manager in your firm should know what a strong CPAR's narrative reads like and be building toward it deliberately. That should be on purpose. So if you want a weekly read on the environment, the FAR overhaul comment windows, the DEI clause landscape, the OMB uniform guidance rewrite, the FY25 scorecard, the litigation tracker, I published a regular brief that walks through every one of them, plus deeper analysis sources and the actions, I give my advisory clients. And it's the fastest way to stay aligned without spending your week reading law firms alert. And it's free to subscribe, and you can actually get it on the link that is actually in the chat. And so if you are still trying to read every law firm summary and every Federal Register notice yourself, that brief is how you can stop doing motion and start doing alignment. And again, as it relates to all of the regulatory briefs and policies that are being released, I am not providing you any kind of legal advice or guidance. What I'm doing is communicating and articulating the information to you from a frame of reference of the decades of experience I have working in that space. So please confer with your counsel so that you can understand clearly and have clarity as to how you should be moving forward. So for engagement, what I want you to do right now, before we get out of here, I just want you to just pick one. And I want you to drop it in the comments with the hashtag progress. So based on what we just talked about, do you have a big discipline gap? Meaning you are submitting bids you should not have submitted and your win rate reflected? Or your progress hashtag is Section M gap. You are right into Section L and hoping the evaluators see the value. You do not have a compliance matrix mapped to evaluation factors. Or you CPAR's gap. You are delivering the work, but not deliberately shaping the CPAR's narrative. So your past performance is actually drifting. You have a regulatory attention gap. You are spending time on regulatory reading that is not translated into a decision, a comment file, or a contract action. Again, with these regulatory changes, what is the result that is going to occur because you read it, because of the motion of reading, the motion of reviewing? What's that decision you're going to make? Or have we filed a comment? That's a result. Did it change your contract action? And it could be none of those. So you're running a tight free front operation and your results are compounded. And so I just want you to be honest, but from engagement perspective, think about the gap that you have, and let us know in the comments. Because again, we're not trying to score anybody. We're not trying to shame no one. The point is to see the one that is yours and work on it this week. So if you have already joined the SONRC's Facebook group, that is where the work continues between Wednesdays. Members are posting their stalled answers from week 11. They're doing their hashtag halfway audit scores. They're doing their hashtag delegate gaps from last week. And now this week, you're going to be putting your hashtag progress diagnostic. So just come on in the room and just share and come read what others are saying. And, because who knows, you may be able to find you an accountability partner for the back half of these next 20 weeks. But you can also potentially find an accountability partner that can grow into an established relationship and where you can do future work in the future. And I want you to come back next Wednesday at 2 p.m. for week 14, because we're going to be talking about your systems of missing. And that episode is going to sit, right on top of this one here, just like they all do. They all build on top of one on top of the other, right? So here's what I want you to leave with today. Feeling busy is not the same as building a business. Doing work is not the same as producing results. The owners who will grow the back half of 2026 are the ones who are ruthlessly, align their week to the three things that produce federal contracting results: bid discipline, section M alignment, and CPAR shape delivery. Everything else is negotiable. Everything else can be delegated, systematized, or just dropped altogether. The policy environment is not going to reward motion. It is going to reward the firms that are aligned. Our overhaul is going to reset the rules. The DEI clause is going to test contract holders. The FY27 scorecard is going to reward the agencies who bought from the small businesses that won on merit and delivered on performance. And that is where the market is going. So you could be one of those firms. Show up again next week, next Wednesday, but I want you to drop your progress diagnostic in the group so that we can all just see where you're at. And who knows, again, like I said earlier, you may find you an accountability partner. Again, go subscribe to the brief, and let's keep building. This is Dr. Lori Smith, CEO and founder of Active Elegant LLC and the founder of SONRCs. We will see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So bye-bye. Thank you all so much for joining.